Hi, I'm Adam Parrish. Welcome to the first episode of the Leveling Up podcast. So, I'm spending the year trying to figure out what it takes to get to the next level of bridge. And I'm doing this specifically for myself, trying to get from the expert level to the world class player. But I'm also interested for my students who are, mostly at the intermediate level. What is really involved in getting yourself to that next step? So, I'm going to be interviewing a wide range of people to see what I can learn. I'm going to talk to a lot of top players about how they got where they are, what they do to improve their own game. I'm going to talk to intermediate and advanced players about what they're doing to get better. And I'm going to be talking to experts in all sorts of areas on learning, performance, things that might help us at the table. So, my first guest is Brian Platnick. Brian is a world class player. He won the Rosenblum World Championship years ago. He won the Risinger this year. He is one of the creators and administrators of the Edgar system that looks for online cheating. And he's just a really thoughtful guy who was one of the people when I reached out to the expert community about this project who really took it to heart and was really engaged and had a lot of interesting things to say and thought-provoking things. And so I wanted to talk with him and have him be the first guest here because I'm really interested in his thoughts on the game and how we get better. So, Brian, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
What do you think contributed to your progression from expert level to world-class player?
Growing up in West Virginia, there weren't a lot of top players that, like a lot of younger players, they kind of, meet some, expert players who kind of take a liking to them, who take them under their wing, who help them and whatever. Certainly there's a little bit of that, but not a lot. There's really not a lot of good players. But so a lot of my learning early on was just kind of picking things up on my own. Like not someone sitting down and telling me, don't, this convention is stupid. You need to play this. You need this carding agreement is better. It was just kind of, picking up a few tips here and there and trying to work a lot of things out on my own. So it was, but then how getting to from expert to world class. So that's a tough question. So how do you view yourself right now? If someone asked you, Adam Parrish, where is he in the bit bridge spectrum? How would you answer?
Yeah, I mean, I would say expert, but not world class.
So anyway, I mentioned before you started that I was going to do things a little different. I'm going to ask you some questions. Also.
Shoot, I like that.
So how do you define expert?
That's a good question. I mean, I heard someone say an expert is someone who's made all the mistakes there are to make and has learned from that. So, yeah, I mean, I think an expert is someone who has a deep knowledge of the game, has a lot of experience. And I don't exactly know what that differentiating line between expert and world class is. I mean, certainly there's some technical bridge skill, there's a lot of experience and judgment, there's some concentration and at the table differences. Yeah, that's my answer.
But it's hard to define what's,
it's kind
absolutely. Of like, right, I don't know what it is, but I know it when I see it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so going with what you said, so I'm sure you know people who understand lots of different bidding theory, defensive carding, et cetera, but when they're actually playing, they just seem to make too many mistakes, and the results are not nearly as good as what you would expect from when you're talking to them, in the bar after the game. And not somebody who's like talking bullshit or anything, but somebody who really understands the game, but the performance does not seem to bear that out.
Yes.
So, I mean, being an expert in one sense sort of understanding things and making all the mistakes. But then you also have to bring your knowledge to bear when you're at the table
Absolutely.
and you
That's
get the result.
certainly part of what holds me back is what I can do in my mind and after the game doesn't always translate to what's happening at the table. And that's one of the things I'm trying to figure out is why that is, how much of it is um, bridge skill and how much of it is concentration, some other X factor I haven't figured out yet.
So okay, just back up the definition of expert. What I before you become an expert, you are a quote unquote good player. So he's a good player. He's a good player. So I have like a definition of a good player. So let's say if you're playing, there's you're at the Nationals and there's like the 2 day pair event, the first couple days where there's decent competition. There's not still 32 teams left in the spin gold or whatever. So if a pair makes a second day of this event and your attitude is not, oh my God, can you believe Brian and Adam actually made the cut? It's like no big deal that they made the cut, or maybe you think I didn't think they would, but not really this shocked. Then they're good players. I mean, maybe they're not necessarily players who don't win a national event, but you can't be a bad player and expect to make the second day of a legitimate 2 day national pair. You've played enough club games and other tournaments, so and someone like an expert, if a pair comes in like places in the top 10, and you're not saying, "Wow, Brian Adam made the top 10." Oh, they must be so proud of that. If they make the top 10 and it's no surprise, then they're expert players.
Yeah.
That's
Or
kind of
like
how I do it.
if they don't make day two and you're really surprised, they're an expert pair, maybe. Right?
Okay, that's probably even better than my version of it. Yes, but
Yeah.
that's more performance based than someone who knows everything inside out.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting idea that can you tell if someone is an extra expert just talking bridge with them? Or do you have to see their performance at the table?
And I guess it depends.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly would not judge someone um, as an expert without seeing them play or having or someone else vouching for them or whatever. It's just on hearing. But as far as so then how do you go from being an expert to being a world class player? That's a very difficult question. I mean, that's kind of a tough one. But I guess maybe looking at some characteristics of world class players.
Yeah.
So it's again okay. Now, how do we define a world class player? I mean, there are those who think that's only like the dozen best players in the world, but that's kind of a bit narrow to that view.
Yeah. I mean, I would say if no one would be surprised that you won the spin gold, you're a world class player. But like if I won the spin gold, you would be surprised. But
Yeah.
yeah, but if I won the Silidor, one of the 2 day pair events, you'd be like, that's a good result. But I'm not shocked at that. Right? That to me is the difference between expert and world class.
Right. So I guess I just won the Risinger. I don't know if anyone was shocked by that, but so
No,
assuming that
no. I mean, like you've represented the US in the Bermuda Bowl, right? Like that is certainly in the world class
right. And the Diamond team,
domain.
we had a history of coming in second in the trials and not qualifying. It was kind of
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah.
So I kind of view so when people ask me the definition of world class, my kind of stock answer is everybody better than me is world class. Everybody worse than me is not world class. I kind of view that. I'm sort of like the Mendoza line of world class players. It's like
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of how I view things. I have a pretty good ego like most bridge players, and I've won plenty of things and played pretty well. I mean, there's a lot of people who play a lot better. Like I always say, like Jeff Hampson doesn't call me up asking me advice about how he should bid something or what he should have led. I mean, maybe he'll maybe a hand here and there just out of curiosity, but he's not calling me up at soliciting my opinion because he thinks I can help. That'll help him. I mean, it doesn't mean that sometimes he doesn't listen to me about something or agree that I was right about something and he was wrong once in a while, but that's not. So that's kind of how I view things. There are a lot of players who are just really really good players. So what separates um, like the top, like sort of the upper echelon world class players? One of the things I think is like someone like Eric Rodwell is it seems like he just never takes a hand off. Every hand he's playing, like every hand he is just focused on and completely into and trying his best. He doesn't get lazy. Never seems to get lazy in any hand. And he's a great player for a lot of reasons, but that's one thing that separates him from a lot of other players.
Do you think that's something that is innate or something that one can work on and develop?
That's a good question. That I'm not sure about. That's one thing. I sometimes have to battle with as I'm playing, kind of losing focus or letting my mind wander, then not getting myself back into the game.
Mm-hmm.
So reminding myself focus on this hand, play this hand, and so I mean most things people can learn
Yeah.
or things like that. I would think. I mean, not everybody can be a great bridge player, but those that could be a great bridge player, I think the concentration skills you can probably develop if you really put an effort in.
Are there things that you have done away from the table to work on that skill yourself?
Actually, yes. I mean, not nearly enough, but like once when I remember one time I played kind of poorly in a match. John Diamond is not a fast player, and we were playing against someone who was even slower. And I was kept rushing myself and getting worried about the fact that we were under time pressure. And there's things like that. Like for the Rodwells, they just don't worry about it. They try to play it. They try to play their speed. If they're too slow or whatever, maybe they'll try to play faster, but they're not going to let it bother them.
I'll
It
take the
doesn't mean if they
penalty.
want to play slow and break the rules. I mean, they just don't let it bother them. They try, and I was letting it bother me and affect my play. And I realized, and I said, okay, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm going to sit down and play. If things, if my opponent's this or they're playing slowly or whatever, I'll try to. I'm not going to speed myself up because they're wasting time or my partner's wasting. If maybe we get a penalty for slow play sometime. If it's my partner, but I got to use my time. I have to think. I have to still try to play my best and not let anything else bother. So that's the kind of thing is like recognizing when there is something that you're letting affect your performance, and then trying to address it.
Was there anything beyond just mindset that you did other than telling yourself, oh, I see this thing that I'm doing wrong? I'm conscious of it.
Just remember, just try to remember that when I'm playing, just be mindful of the, that I need to focus. So one thing anyway that I noticed, I used to always seem to have like first boarditis, where I would make a mistake on one of the first couple of hands because I was a little rusty and I just wasn't focusing.
First hand of the tournament, first hand of the day.
Like when I first started a tournament,
Okay.
usually, or maybe if there's a couple of days off, but usually you don't have a couple of days off. But it's usually just at the very beginning of the tournament. So JD used to tell me, he's like, let's deal out a couple of hands and play. Like 30 minutes before the game, 15 minutes. Let's deal out a couple of hands. Let's play a couple of hands. So,
It's weird. Every other athlete warms up before they play, right? It's so weird that we don't in bridge. It seems like that could be a huge low-hanging fruit advantage.
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of players seem to play a lot, and now with with BBO and whatever, it's not that and Swan and other online games. There are ways you can you can play. I mean, I can just pull out my phone and play against some robots a few hands just to kind of get my counting the cards and start thinking. So there's other ways to do that now.
What do you try to do between tournaments to stay sharp? Other guys are going to regionals every week. But what's your routine?
Watch a lot of Netflix mainly.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I usually do is I'm playing with Kevin Rosenberg now, and typically we'll start maybe 6 weeks before a tournament. We'll start get a schedule where we practice some, we have discuss some, we're always sort of emailing or talking about things, but where we'll start to work on things, and that's that. It's I certainly don't do enough. It's like I said, with my kids are both in college now, so I don't have I don't have as many responsibilities at home, but still working. I only have so much time for bridge, and working on
Yeah.
Edgar takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
The cheating detection, that sort of comes in spurts. There are times where I don't not really doing much for a while, and other times where it's spending a lot of time on it.
Yeah. If I gave you all the time in the world, if I said, you don't have to work anymore, you don't have to do Edgar, I want you to give it 40 plus hours a week working on your bridge game. A, what would you do? And B, how much of a difference do you think it would?
That's a good question. So first off, I would know having more. Okay, so when you're playing, I'll also throw this back to you a second. So who's your main partner? Do you have a main regular partner now that you play with?
Yeah, Greg Humphreys and I are
Okay, so how many pages are your system notes?
about 30.
It's about 30. Okay, so if you want to be a world class player, you're gonna have to add a zero to that to start with.
Okay.
I mean, that's okay. But everything, what's in your notes, do you know everything backwards and forwards?
I would say 90% of it. Yeah.
90%. Okay, but 10% does not mean 10% of the time the hands you don't know something. It means there's esoteric things that.
Yeah. There are corner cases that like we agreed 3 years ago and hasn't come up since.
And is that written in your notes?
It's all, yeah, it's written down, it's highlighted, and before the tournament, before most sessions, I go through and there are certain things I look at. We've consciously kept the notes short for that reason, and so there are a lot of things that have been discussed that haven't been explicitly written down, because we don't want to overwhelm ourselves. Maybe that's the wrong strategy.
Okay, this is actually a good point. Okay, now we're hitting on something here. So how are we going to get Adam and Greg over to the next level if that's what you're trying to do? So there's something you discussed, you didn't write it down. Do you know it? I mean, do you know this thing you discussed? Do you both remember it? Are you both going to know? If it comes up, do you have the confidence to do whatever it is, double knowing that it's not penalty or do this or whatever?
Right. I mean, we literally just had one of these come up where I was 100% sure of our agreement and Greg had no recollection of that agreement,
Which is why you have to write these things down.
which is why we have to write them down. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're hitting on something good. So if you want to get to the next level, you can't be too lazy to write these things down and have your notes organized. There's always one member of the partnership who is in charge of the notes.
Yeah.
Typically. And different people have different ways of learning and remembering things. So you have to make sure that things are written in a format that some people have like narratives written. Others are like, it's more, an outline, one club, one diamond, blah, 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 blah. And others don't spell out every bit. So whatever works for you, but you have to have the confidence that if there's something that you're sure is an agreement, you have to have the confidence to make the bid when it comes up.
How many pages are your notes with Kevin?
So they were, I don't know, 30 some, and now we're actually starting to we're going to play precision now. We're switching to relay precision, so now they're going to be like 100 pages. My notes with John Diamond were 200 plus pages.
Yeah.
Reading notes is torture in my mind.
But as good as my notes with Greg might be, right? Let's say that we get to 300 pages and we know them down cold or whatever. I would still take, if you sat down with Rodwell and, had 20 minutes to discuss a card, I would still take you guys over me and Greg, right? So there's something individual that you guys are doing that we're not above and beyond the partnership aspect.
Right. Well, so part of it is having a good system and knowing it's only going to take you so far. There's also, you have to have good judgment. Just knowing something is a slam try doesn't mean that you should be making a slam try on a hand.
Absolutely.
Hand evaluation and understanding that, these, but also with card play.
Like Greg and I are a partnership. We have a lot of agreements. We spend a lot of time on this. But if he entered an event with you and you guys had an hour to go over a card, I would think the two of you would be favorites over me and him. So, like, why are you so much better at bridge than I am? And it's not about your agreements with Greg. It's about your technical expertise, your evaluation, and your mindset at the table. Is there something beyond those three things?
I think so. No, you've hit on it pretty well. So that's going. I guess depends like how far you want to go. So I'm thinking if you want to be like truly world class, you have to have everything. You have to have a good bidding system. So let's switch this around a bit. So let's take so we have like Mextroth and Rodwell and Levin and Weinstein, like all sort of in their prime. Now we have a second team where we have the same four players from an alternate universe, yet switching partnerships. So and with an hour to work on it, et cetera. Now, if you take the switch partnership version against, you and Greg or whatever, you're still going to get your asses kicked. However, if they're playing against each other, the established partnership pairs are going to have a huge advantage. And it doesn't mean that they will necessarily win every single time they play the team, but that's a big advantage.
I feel like at the world class level, that's where that partnership thing is enough of an edge to tilt Levin and Weinstein over you and Kevin because they've been playing together for 20 years. Right?
But
They
it's
also
not just having 300 pages of notes. It's also understanding how your partner approaches the game. The
yes,
kind of
yeah,
things they do, their tendencies, what their preempts look like, when et cetera, et cetera. I mean that's a lot of it also.
right. But I'm more interested in what differentiates me from you individually or you from Extroth individually, right? I mean,
Mostly it's card play is what I think is I think what really distinguishes as players get better. Bidding. I mean, it used to be players bid so much better than they used to. I mean, the whole science of bidding has just gotten so much better. Players are better card players than they used to be. Also, but it's not. It's not nearly as advanced as bidding has become. But the difference in card play.
if you were going to compare your game to, I don't know who your idols in bridge are, but Mextroth, Rodwell, Hampson, whomever you might say are, these guys are decidedly better than I am. Would you say it's card play?
I would say it's mostly okay. So let me say like someone like Chip Martell. He was the captain of my junior team when we won. He was, and so I always sort of view him as kind of like my mentor. Even his like card play. His card play was great, and he's someone who's very clever. In the bidding, he's very good judgment. Kind of like he can take a lot of emphasis from what's happening in the auction for what's right, and really make very fine decisions. But except a lot of times it's not going to matter. You figure out something, you work out nothing, but it's a 50% like who knows? It comes down to okay, partner had the 10 of that suit, therefore it became a good con. Sometimes you just don't know. You make your best guess, and that's kind of the rule I got from Danny Sprung. You bid a slam, and it turns out it's like a 38% slam or so, or 35% slam, or you miss a 60% slam, whatever. Don't worry about it. If you think about like if it's a red slam, you win or lose 13 imps. If they do the other thing, whatever. So if it's a 60%, if you miss a 60% or bid a 40%, then you lose 6 out of 10 times. So you lose 26 imps out of 10 hands. So 2.6 imps per hand. It's halfway between a red and a white under trick. So that's kind of your expected value for that. But the problem is the variance.
Right. You don't get to play it 10 times.
Right. But bidding a 40% slam or missing a 60% slam, don't worry about it. Move on. That's not. And I tell my juniors that I coach. They're arguing about some hand. Is this enough to invite whatever? But I said, okay, a quarter of a point one way or the other, depending on how you evaluate it. That's not why you're going to win or lose the event. When you have a close choice between inviting and passing. So invite or pass. Don't jump the game. Like just just do something. Just take one of the normal actions, and you're not going to be perfect.
But if you
But you
get
don't want to
enough of those right over time, that's what differentiates the really top players, right?
Right. So here's an example, like a junior player who one of the opponents opened a no trump, and he's playing some contract, and like I said, his right hand opponent opened a no trump. So he has an 8 card fit, His left-hand opponent let a singleton, got a ruff, got in, got another ruff. So 2 trumps are gone. So there's 3 trumps left, and he's missing the ace and jack. He had like honor like king 10-9 fifth off the queen third, say, and led the king out of his hand. And his right-hand opponent opened a no trump, had ace jack third, and he lost 2 tricks. And he was just sort of lost his concentration, thinking, okay, this guy led a singleton, so he probably is not short in trumps. But he just sort of forgot the guy put a no trump. He's not going to have a void in trumps, and he's made a kind of a silly play. So, I mean, that's a play. You wouldn't make that play. I wouldn't make that play. And this kid normally wouldn't make that play. But the fact is he did. And you don't get to erase that like it didn't happen. You made that mistake. Why? Why did you make that mistake when you know better?
Yeah.
So we all do that.
Where do you think those mistakes come from? Because you and me make not exactly that mistake, but we'll do
a little higher level equivalent. We all, whatever the level,
something like, I cannot believe I did that, right?
So I guess so. It happens, and I think it's usually from just lack of concentration.
Mm-hmm. Right. Let me just quantify it and just make up numbers. But let's say that sort of thing happens to me 2% of the time, and it happens to you 1% of the time, and it happens to Rodwell 0.5% of the time. What's the difference? Why is it happening to me more? Is there anything I can do about it?
So that's a tough question that may not be a bridge player question.
Yeah.
That's sort of a different thing. But one, I think when you let's say you make, when Rodwell makes a mistake, a card play mistake, how often do you think, like if you saw the hand, it would have been like it's obvious to you what the right play was for the right reason, and he just blundered, as opposed to it's kind of complicated, and maybe you could have figured it out, but you would have had to think about it and figure out what was going on. Like when Rodwell makes a mistake, it's not like the Adam Paris's are going to just look at it and say, oh, that was an obvious, like, okay, that was easy. I can't believe he did that. I'm sure it happens once in a while, but very rare.
Right.
When he makes a mistake, it's something,
Yeah.
usually it's either more complicated or maybe it's just like a total mind loss or something. I don't know.
Right. I mean, we've all had that thing where like they get a ruff and then we forget to count that trump when we're counting trumps, and there's one less trump out there than we thought there was, right? That happens a lot less now than it used to, but I admit it still happens. It creeps in every now and then. Or just, they let a singleton and it happened to be the 9 and I missed the card, and now, I missed the 9.
That's another good point. Like the Rodwells don't miss the spot cards.
Yeah.
I'm bad about that sometimes. I don't always, it's one of these things like you have, you have the 6 of clubs in dummy and there's only one other club out, and you rough it to your hand and they fall with a 5 and you're like,
right,
it was good. Like, come on.
So it seems to me there's got to be some way to train yourself on that. Right? If you just acknowledge that that's a shortcoming in your game sometimes. And so let's say, okay, we've identified that. That's the first step. And now we're going to put together a training regimen for you to specifically work on that thing. Like, what do you think that would look like?
Well, I think one of the things is just like when the cards are played, just say the card in your head.
Say it in your head.
Card up on the 3, just in your head, just say to yourself 3, to kind of make sure. So that you had to actually look at the card and paid attention, because you can't say the card to yourself if you didn't pay attention and see what it was. And there's also what cards are still out? The 3, is that the high or the low? And that's so one thing I go over with my juniors, and this is not getting from expert to world class. This is as you're moving up. When you're playing, every hand you're playing, like I have them write up, like analyze a hand. And I say, you need to do this in a structured way. What do you know about what you're defending? What are you trying to do in this hand? You're trying to beat the hand. How are you going to beat the hand? What do you know? What does the declare have? How many high card points does he show? And what distribution? And then keep updating your priors every time something else happens in it.
How much do you think non-bridge attributes differentiate the very top from the, tippy top from the, very good? So I'm talking about concentration and fitness and whatever else.
So I'm sure fitness, eating well, not drinking too much definitely helps. I'm sure. When I go to a tournament, I eat healthier at tournaments than I do otherwise. I drink less alcohol at tournaments than I do. I don't drink a lot. We drink wine here and there, but at tournaments, I often, sometimes I don't drink until I'm out of the main event. I'll have zero alcohol at a tournament sometimes. Other people, drink at the bar every night. Like someone like Zia and Michael Rosenberg are very different in personality, but they both concentrate very, very deeply when they're playing. They're really concentrated. So it's. I think one of the main skills for the upper echelon is just being able to concentrate on every hand, and just really being able to focus and concentrate on every hand.
Are there any things that you do specifically to work on that skill yourself?
Not enough. I try. So like I said, when I'm playing, I try to keep my mind focused on bridge. I try to get distracted. I try to make sure I get plenty of sleep and I'm getting up. Sort of have your routine. That's different people have different routines. Have a good routine, and how you do things, and just whatever. Different people have. People are different. Whatever it is that gets you.
What is your tournament routine?
My tournament routine is basically. I'm not that social at tournaments. I don't hang out that much at the I usually just often now it's an early schedule mostly. So I try like so I have tournaments sometimes where I will. I mean, sometimes I'll go to like the grocery store, stock up my little hotel fridge with some turkey sandwiches, some this and that, whatever. Maybe order a room service salad and make a sandwich. And my wife couldn't believe me. If she finds it unbelievable if I'm in a city like Toronto and I'm like eating dinner in my hotel room almost every night, having turkey sandwiches or having some or something like it's like just so many great restaurants there. I'm like, well, when we lose in whatever event, if I'm not playing the next day, then maybe but I do go out. Yeah, I certainly go out some, but I try not to go out. I've played on teams with clients who expect you and want you to go out to big dinners with them every night. So there you kind of do what you do, and then I try to pick some like maybe it can be tough to unwind after playing bridge sometimes. So like some goofy TV show, watch a 30-minute goofy TV show or something, or read a novel or something before I go to sleep, just something kind of get in relaxed mode, and then try to. So I'm not thinking. I'm sure you've had these nights where you lay in bed trying to sleep, and for hours you're just thinking about bridge hands. You can't stop. Usually,
that jack I could have squashed. Yeah. Do you exercise at all during the tournament?
I like to walk a bit. Actually, I like not staying at the host hotel. It's nice to get have a 10 or 15-minute walk. I don't like staying too far away usually. And often it's because there are times where you're trying to go to the game and you're waiting 15 minutes for an elevator. It's sometimes faster not to stay there.
Interesting.
And because I mentioned I like to, I order room service a lot and just eat in the room and try to relax instead of going out. At the host hotel, it's like everyone's on the same schedule.
Right.
So I hate to it used to, between now you don't really do much between sessions because of the schedule. But it used to be dinners between sessions, and you don't want to wait forever for room service if you're ordering something. So that's kind of it. But again, people are different, so it's whatever works. Whatever works.
And then after a tournament, what do you do in terms of analyzing your results?
Again, not enough is not as much as I should. But this is, I kind of go anything that happened that I think is noteworthy or that probably it's if you're playing a hand like so you're playing with Greg and Greg just like goes down in the slam because he could have counted the hand out if he just played his diamonds first and saw lefty discard, he would have had a perfect count. I mean, do you really need to tell him, Greg, you fucked that hand up as if he doesn't know it already? And that's not really a useful way of analyzing things. Now, why didn't he do that? Why is he not prepared? Well, you're probably as his partner not the best person to have that conversation with him. Maybe
but hopefully he would be doing some soul searching about that.
And often, and I think I mentioned to you when we emailed a few months ago about this, like is one thing when your partner makes a mistake on defense, instead of thinking about like why did he fuck up his defense, think about what did I do that led him astray. Was there something I could have? No. If it's, you could have done something to stop him from making a stupid mistake, well, you can't take the burden of the world. But if you didn't card that accurately, and so you gave your partner a problem he shouldn't have had, even if he should have worked it out, you think, why did you make him have to work that out?
Absolutely.
So I think that's a lot of it, is kind of thinking how you know realizing, you're like, what was my role in this, or bidding disaster.
So
Partner screwed this up, but did I play some role in this?
do you and Kevin, or did you and John have some sort of post tournament, post mortem routine?
Well, with John, our tournament routine was to scream at each other during the tournament, but
Okay.
we would go, but we'd go over hands afterwards. Kevin and I we don't have a structured post tournament routine, but we'll bring things up. We will discuss things, and as far as if we think it's something that's worth discussing or worth bringing up. I mean, it's like at a certain point, like with like Maxroth and Rodwell, if they had a bad result on the hand, how much is discussing it going to help either? So
Yeah.
it sort of depends where you are, kind of on the spectrum of things, how important some things are, discussions like that are.
Well, thank you, Brian. This has been so helpful.
Okay, and then I'll see you in Memphis. Good
I will
luck.
see you in Memphis. All
All right,
right.
thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you again.
All right, bye bye.
Okay. Bye.